The docking bay of the alien space station was alive with activity. Sleek vessels shaped like silver crescent moons glided in and out. Small repair drones buzzed like insects, carrying tools that shimmered in the strange light of the dying blue, star beyond the station's glass walls. John stepped out of a narrow maintenance tunnel, wiping grease from his hands. His simple brown jacket was covered in smudges from the repair he had just completed. Around him, tall, alien figures with translucent skin and luminous eyes moved with an almost liquid grace. They barely noticed the lone human among them. To them, he was just another contract worker from a small world far from the galactic core. But today was different. A deep, melodic tone echoed through the bay, followed by the voice of an announcer speaking in the universal language. Engineer? John of Earth, you are to report to the Grand Court immediately, by order of Her Majesty, Queen Shira of the Luminari. Heads turned. Conversations paused. The Luminari were a proud and ancient race. Their queen rarely summoned anyone directly, and certainly not a human. John stood frozen for a moment, unsure if he had heard correctly. Did they just say you? Asked Rin, a short, green-skinned technician who worked with him. Seems like it, John muttered. No idea why. Two tall royal guards approached. Their armor shone like polished crystal, and each carried a long staff that pulsed with soft blue light. Without a word, they motioned for John to follow. The walk to the Grand Court took them through the heart of the station. John passed great arched windows that revealed the massive blue star outside, its surface boiling and spitting flares into the void. He passed bustling markets where alien traders displayed glowing fabrics, floating sculptures, and jars of living light. Everywhere eyes followed him. A human escorted by royal guards was a sight none could ignore. Finally, they reached a set of towering silver doors carved with swirling patterns. They opened slowly, revealing the Grand Court. The chamber was vast, lit by strands of light that hung in the air like threads of gold. A wide path led to a raised dais where the Queen's throne stood. Dozens of alien nobles lined the hall, their colorful robes flowing like water. The air was thick with the scent of strange flowers. And then he saw her. Queen Shira sat upon a throne made of crystal and living vines. Her tall form was draped in flowing silver fabric that seemed to ripple even without wind. Her skin was pale as moonlight, and her eyes glowed softly like two small stars. Though alien in every way, there was a calm dignity in her presence. The hall fell silent as John approached. He stopped several steps away and bowed, unsure if that was the right gesture here. "Rise, human," the Queen said. Her voice was smooth and musical, but carried a weight of command. John straightened. "Your Majesty," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Her gaze was sharp, as if she could see not just his face, but the thoughts behind it. "It was you," she said at last, "who repaired the outer energy grid last cycle." "Yes," John replied. "It was damaged by a debris strike. I just did what I could." "What you could," the Queen repeated, softly. "Others declared the system lost. You restored it within a single cycle using nothing but salvaged parts." John shifted uncomfortably. "I just found a way around the broken conduits. Sometimes you have to improvise." A faint smile touched the Queen's lips. "Yes, improvise. That is not a skill my people possess easily." Whispers moved through the crowd. Shira's expression grew more serious. "You may be wondering why I summoned you here. The reason is simple, but the task I will ask of you is not." John's heartbeat quickened. "I'll hear it," he said. The Queen leaned forward slightly, her luminous eyes locked with his. "My daughter, Princess Leora, is dying." A murmur spread through the court. John stood frozen, unsure how to respond. She has been struck by an affliction no healer among my people can cure. The Queen continued. Our science has failed us. Our wisdom has reached its limits. Yet I have been told there may be a chance, and that chance lies in you. In me? John asked, startled. I'm just an engineer. I'm not a doctor. I don't even know your biology. Shira's gaze did not waver. I am not asking you to heal her as our healers would. I am asking you to succeed where they cannot, by seeing with human eyes, thinking with human ways. There is something in your kind that allows you to find paths that are invisible to others. John opened his mouth, then closed it again. He had no idea how to answer. The Queen rose from her throne. Even standing still, she radiated authority. Slowly, she descended the steps of the dais until she stood before him. She was taller than he expected, her presence overwhelming. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, but each word was clear. Human, my daughter needs you. The words hung in the air like a great weight. John felt every gaze in the room upon him. He could hear the faint hum of the station systems, the distant crackle of the blue star beyond the walls. He did not know why she believed he could help, but there was something in her tone, not just command, but desperation. He hesitated, his mind racing. If there's truly something I can do, I'll try. But I can't promise. You need not promise success, Shira interrupted. Only that you will act. John nodded slowly. Then, I'll act. The Queen straightened. Good. You will be taken to her at once. The guard stepped forward again, this time guiding him toward a side passage. As he walked, John glanced back at the Queen. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. He had come to this station expecting nothing more than another day's work. Now he was being sent to help an alien princess whose life hung by a thread, somewhere. Deep inside, beneath the confusion and the fear, a spark of determination began to grow. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it. The corridor leading away from the grand court was quieter than the bustling halls John had walked before. The walls here were lined with soft blue light, and the air carried a faint, calming scent. The two royal guards walked ahead without speaking, their steps perfectly in sync. John followed, his thoughts racing. The Queen's words repeated in his mind. My daughter needs you. He still could not understand why she believed a human engineer could succeed where alien healers had failed. They stopped before a pair of tall doors made of smooth white stone. Strange patterns shimmered across their surface like ripples on water. One guard pressed a hand against a glowing panel. The doors slid open with a whisper. Inside, the room was unlike any place John had ever seen. Its walls were made of clear crystal, and outside them drifted slow-moving streams of light, like rivers in the air. In the center stood a curved bed of woven silver threads, surrounded by hovering machines that pulsed gently. On the bed lay the princess. Her skin, pale and softly glowing, was marked with dim patches where the light had faded. Her long hair shimmered, faintly, though its brightness seemed weaker than it should. She was breathing, but each breath came with effort, her chest rising and falling slowly. John stopped a few steps away. She looked fragile, like a candle about to go out. A tall alien in a white robe approached him. His face was narrow, his eyes deep blue, and he held a small device that hummed quietly. I am Saren, lead healer to the royal family, the alien said in the universal language. His tone was calm, but his gaze carried concern. You are the human the Queen has summoned, John nodded. She told me the princess is sick, but she didn't explain what's wrong. Saren glanced at the princess before answering. The illness is caused by a parasite of pure energy. It has merged with her life force. It shifts its form constantly, changing its energy pattern faster than our treatments can follow. Every time we adjust our healing systems, the parasite changes again. John frowned. So it's not a living thing like a germ? Not in the way your kind understands life, Saren replied. It is a being of moving light, invisible without the right sensors. We believe it came from the blue star itself, carried here in a solar flare. It seeks out living hosts and feeds on their energy until they fade away. John looked at the machines around the bed. They glowed and flickered in complicated patterns. And all your technology can't catch it? We can see it. We can touch it. But we cannot outpace it, Saren said. The Queen believes humans possess a kind of flexible thinking. She hopes you may find what we have missed. John hesitated. I don't have medical training. I'm just an engineer. I fix systems, not people. Perhaps that is why she believes you can succeed, Saren said. This parasite is like a system that refuses to follow its own design. It changes its structure without warning. Maybe an engineer's mind can see a path we cannot. The princess stirred slightly, her eyes opening just a little. They were the same glowing silver as the Queen's, but dimmer now. She looked at John with a faint smile. You are the human, she whispered. Her voice was soft, but her words were clear. John stepped closer. Yes, I'm John. Your mother asked me to help you. Her smile grew a little, though it was still weak. Then I am glad you came. She closed her eyes again, her breathing slowing. Saren gestured toward a small table where a display floated in the air. It showed streams of shifting light patterns, red, gold, blue, twisting and merging like living smoke. This is the parasite's current form, he explained. It will change again in moments. Watch. John leaned closer. Within seconds, the patterns shifted, twisting into new shapes. Some split apart and rejoined, others dissolved and formed again. It was like trying to follow the path of a leaf in a storm. How fast does it change? John asked. Every few seconds, Saren said. Our machines can respond in less than one, but the parasite anticipates them. It moves into a form that resists our energy fields before they even activate. John rubbed his chin. So it's not just random, it's thinking. Yes, Saren said. It learns from every attempt to stop it. John thought for a moment. In engineering, he had seen stubborn systems before. Machines that reacted in unexpected ways when you tried to fix them. But those were simple compared to this. Still, one thing was the same. If a system kept adapting, you had to find a way to change faster than it could predict. He turned to Saren. Can your equipment change its output instantly? Not following a pattern? Just switching completely without warning? Our systems are built for precision, Saren replied. They are not designed for sudden random changes. John gave a small nod. That might be the problem. If it's learning your moves, you have to stop making moves it can predict. You need chaos. Saren tilted his head. Chaos is not our way, but perhaps it could be yours. At that moment, the Queen entered the chamber. The nobles who had followed her into the grand court were not here. Only she and 2 guards. She moved to the princess's side, placing a hand gently on her daughter's forehead. She still breathes, Shira said softly. Then she looked at John. You have seen her now. Do you believe you can help? John hesitated. He could not promise success. The problem was unlike anything he had faced before. But looking at the princess, seeing the faint glow of her life flickering, he knew he could not walk away. I don't know if I can cure her, he said, but I think I might be able to fight this thing in a way it won't expect. Shira's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in focus. You speak with care. That is good. Speak also with truth. What will you need? I'll need access to your medical systems, John said, and I'll need them to respond instantly to my commands. Even if the changes seem random. No, delays. No asking why. The queen exchanged a glance with Saren. The healer looked uncertain, but he gave a slow nod. Then it will be so, Shira said. But understand this, human. If you fail, there will be no second chance. The parasite will not wait. I understand, John said quietly. Shira stepped back, her gaze steady. Then prepare yourself. Tomorrow you will face the thing that no luminary has defeated. As the queen left the chamber, John stood beside the princess's bed, watching. The shifting patterns on the display. Somewhere in that twisting storm of light was the key to saving her. He didn't know what the next day would bring. But he knew one thing. He would not let her fade without a fight. The next morning, John stood in the royal medical wing, surrounded by alien machines that shimmered with flowing light. The air was cool and quiet, broken only by the soft hum of power coursing through the walls. Princess Leora rested in the silver-threaded bed at the center of the chamber. Her glow was weaker than the day before, as if the parasite inside her had drained even more of her strength overnight. Saren, the royal healer, stood beside a large console shaped like an open shell. Glowing strands of data floated above it, twisting into patterns that shifted every few seconds. The parasite's movements were being tracked in real time. You will need to connect directly to the parasite's energy field, Saren explained. Our machines will act as a bridge. Your mind will perceive its patterns in a form you can understand. John raised an eyebrow. And how exactly will my mind do that? You will not see it as we see it, Saren said. The link will adapt its form to your thoughts. To you, it might look like shapes, lights, or even something from your own world. The important thing is to learn its movements and find a way to disrupt them. The queen entered the chamber then, moving with quiet purpose. Her eyes went from John to her daughter, and for a moment the authority in her expression softened into deep concern. Everything is ready? She asked Saren. Yes, Your Majesty, Saren replied. Shira turned to John. You told me yesterday that chaos may be the key. Remember this, the parasite will fight you not with strength, but with confusion. Do not let it control the rhythm of the fight. John gave a small nod. I'll keep that in mind. Saren gestured toward a curved chair attached to the console. Sit. Once the link is active, you must remain focused. If you break the connection too soon, the parasite will react violently. John took a deep breath and sat down. The surface of the chair was smooth and warm, almost alive. Saren placed a thin band of silver around his head, and soft threads of light flowed from it into the console. Close your eyes, Saren instructed. The link begins now. John felt a faint pressure in his mind, like the moment before a dream begins. The sounds of the medical wing faded, replaced by a low hum. Then, without warning, his vision filled with light. He was standing in a vast, shifting maze. The walls were made of streams of color, red, blue, gold, constantly moving, twisting, into new shapes. Paths opened and closed in front of him as if the maze were alive. This must be it, he muttered. His voice echoed strangely in the space. The colors around him shifted faster, forming jagged shapes that darted across his path. He felt something watching him, not with eyes, but with awareness. The parasite knew he was there. A cluster of red light surged toward him, its shape sharp and chaotic. Instinctively, John stepped aside. The red form swirled around him before breaking apart and vanishing into the maze. He remembered Saren's words the parasite learned from every move. If he kept reacting the same way, it would predict him. John started moving in unpredictable bursts, sometimes stepping forward, sometimes backward, sometimes turning without warning. The maze shifted constantly, but he refused to follow its rhythm. As he moved, he noticed something. The parasite's changes weren't truly random. In the chaos, there were brief moments when its patterns slowed, as if it had to pause before adapting again. "That's it," he said under his breath. "You can't keep changing forever. You need a moment to think." He began timing his movements to those pauses, stepping into the space just as the parasite tried to adapt. Each time, the maze's walls flickered slightly, as though the parasite was struggling to keep up. But then, the parasite struck back. The maze around him twisted violently, and suddenly, he was standing in a perfect replica of his old workshop on Earth. The smell of metal and oil filled the air. The parasite had pulled a memory from his mind. On the workbench lay a broken engine he had once repaired years ago. At first, it felt almost comforting. But then, the engine began to melt into black liquid, and the walls of the workshop dissolved into darkness. John felt a heavy weight pressing on his thoughts, as if the parasite was trying to smother his focus. "Not going to work," he said, forcing himself to breathe steadily. "I've been through worse days than this." He pictured the maze again in his mind. Slowly, the dark workshop faded, replaced by the shifting streams of light. The parasite pulsed with a sharper, almost angry energy now. "Yeah, you didn't like that, did you?" John muttered. He kept moving through the maze, changing direction constantly. He began to throw his own patterns into the light. Bursts of sound, flashes of strange images from Earth, shapes the parasite had never seen before. It hesitated each time, trying to adjust. Outside the link, Saren watched the monitors carefully. The parasite's energy signature was fluctuating more than ever. The Queen stood beside him, her gaze locked on the readings. "He is disrupting its stability," Saren said quietly. "Then he must keep going," Shira replied. Inside the maze, John finally caught sight of something different. A core of pure white light deep within the shifting colors. It pulsed steadily, the only thing in the space that didn't change. "That's you," John whispered. "The real you." The maze twisted violently, walls slamming down to block his path. Colors flashed like lightning. The parasite was defending its core. John grinned. "Good. That means I'm close." He started throwing every random thought he could into the maze. Images of crashing waves, sudden storms, birds in flight. The sound of metal grinding. The parasite tried to keep up, but the walls around the core began to flicker and thin. Finally, he stepped through one last gap and stood before the white light. It pulsed faster now, as if aware of the danger. John reached out his hand, and just as his fingers touched the surface, the maze exploded into blinding brightness. His eyes snapped open. He was back in the medical wing, breathing hard. The silver band on his head was warm and faint sweat covered his forehead. Saren leaned over him. "What happened?" "I found its core," John said between breaths. "It's hiding in there, behind all the changes. I think I can reach it again. And when I do, I can force it into a trap it won't see coming." The Queen's eyes lit with a rare spark of hope. "Then you will do it," John nodded. "But next time, I'm not just going to find it. I'm going to break it." The medical wing was quiet, except for the steady hum of the machines surrounding Princess Leora's bed. The blue glow of the equipment painted soft light across the crystal walls. John stood beside the console, his hands resting on its smooth surface. He had barely slept. His mind kept returning to the image of the parasite's white core hidden deep inside that strange energy maze. Saren moved between the machines, checking each display. "Your readings after the first link were unusual," he said. "The parasite's energy levels dropped for a short time. That has not happened before." "That's because I got close," John replied. "It knows I can find it now." The Queen entered, her long silver robe trailing behind her. She carried the same calm authority as before, but there was a sharper edge to her gaze. She stopped beside John. "You said you could break it," she reminded him. "I can try," John said. But I'll have to push harder. That means the parasite might fight back more directly. Shira nodded slowly. If you succeed, my daughter will live. If you fail... She let the thought hang in the air. John took a deep breath. Let's begin. Saren adjusted the console and handed John the thin silver band again. The moment you are inside, I will keep the link stable. If the parasite tries to harm you, I can slow the connection, but I cannot stop it entirely without losing the chance to strike. I understand, John said. He sat down in the curved chair and placed the band on his head. The surface was warm, almost alive, and the faint hum of the link began at once. Close your eyes, Saren instructed. The real world faded. John found himself standing in the maze again, but it was different now. The colors were darker, the movements faster. The walls shifted like storm clouds, twisting and closing in around him. The parasite was not hiding anymore. It was hunting. He moved quickly, changing direction without pattern, just as before. Flashes of memory flickered in the air around him. The parasite was digging into his mind again, trying to distract him. He saw the ocean waves of his childhood, the streets of his old city, the faces of people he had not seen in years. Not today, he muttered. He sent his own bursts of thought back at it. The screech of metal, the sudden flare of fire, the sound of rain on a tin roof. The maze hesitated for a fraction of a second. That was his opening. He pushed forward, weaving through the twisting corridors of light. The parasite's shapes lashed out, sharp spikes of color slamming into the paths ahead, but he dodged each one. Then he saw it, the faint glow of the white core in the distance. It pulsed steadily, surrounded by layers of moving light like shields. The parasite reacted instantly, slamming down solid walls of gold light. The path behind him closed. The path ahead narrowed to a single flickering gap. You're not making this easy, John said, his voice steady. He sprinted forward, throwing every random image he could into the maze. Birds scattering in the sky, a sudden explosion of sand, the crash of falling glass. The parasite twisted to block him, but each random change forced it to hesitate. When he reached the first shield around the core, he felt resistance, like walking into heavy wind. The wee light rippled as he pushed against it, and a sharp pressure built in his head. In the medical wing, Saren's voice grew tense. Its energy output is spiking. He's drawing its focus. The queen stood still, her gaze locked on the readings. Do not break the link, she ordered. Inside the maze, John kept pushing. The shield broke apart in a flash of blue, and he stepped through, only to be hit by a wave of images that weren't his own. He saw Leora, not in the medical wing, but standing in a field of glowing flowers. She was laughing, her glow bright and warm. Then the flowers turned black, their light fading. The ground cracked beneath her feet, and the sky above dimmed. The parasite was showing him its victory, the life it had taken, the darkness it would leave behind. John clenched his fists. I'm not here to watch. I'm here to end this. He forced the image away and moved to the next shield. This one was stronger, its colors shifting so fast they blurred into white. He threw chaos at it again. Unpredictable sounds, shifting, shapes, even complete silence. Finally, a narrow path opened, and he slipped through. Now the core was directly ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat. The parasite struck with everything it had. The maze twisted violently, walls collapsing and reforming around him. Spikes of light shot from every direction. John moved faster, dodging, jumping, twisting, never staying in one place for more than a second. Then he reached it. He placed both hands on the white core. It was warm, almost alive, and it resisted his touch. He felt it trying to read his mind, to predict what he would do next. But he didn't give it a single pattern to follow. He sent a storm of thoughts at once. Light, dark, sound, silence, movement, stillness. The core pulsed faster, the maze around him breaking apart. In the medical wing, alarms lit up the monitors. The parasite's structure was destabilizing. "It's working," Saren said sharply. John kept pushing, pouring every unpredictable thought he could into the core. The resistance grew weaker. The light began to fade. Finally, with one last surge, the core shattered into countless sparks that dissolved into nothing. The maze vanished. John's eyes snapped open. He was back in the medical wing, breathing hard. The silver band slid from his head as Saren pulled it away. The Queen was already at her daughter's side. Leora's glow had returned slightly, still faint, but steady now. Her breathing was deeper, stronger. "You did it," Shira said, her voice low but full of relief. "Not completely," John replied, still catching his breath. "It's gone for now, but I need to be sure it doesn't come back. That means I have to go in again, and this time I'll make sure it's finished." The Queen's expression hardened into resolve. "Then we prepare for the final strike." John leaned back in the chair, exhaustion washing over him, but inside he felt something stronger. The certainty that the next time he entered that strange, shifting maze, he would not come out until the fight was over for good. The Royal Medical Wing felt different now. The quiet fear that had filled the air before was replaced by something sharper. Anticipation. The parasite was wounded. Everyone knew it. But John also knew that a wounded enemy could be more dangerous than a healthy one. Princess Leora rested peacefully for the moment. Her glow was stronger than yesterday, but her condition was far from safe. If the parasite adapted and returned, it would be harder to fight a second time. John stood with Saren and the Queen in a small chamber beside the medical wing. A round table in the center displayed a floating model of the parasite's energy pattern. It was unstable, flickering between shapes as if still recovering from their last clash. "We must finish it while it is weak," Shira said firmly. "If it regains its strength, there may be no stopping it." John studied the model. "It learns from everything we do. If I attack the same way as before, it will be ready. This time, I have to make it think it's winning, until it's too late." Saren frowned. "You mean to let it take control?" "Not completely," John replied. "I'll go back into the link and make it think I'm running from it. I'll guide it toward a space I control, a trap made of rapid, unpredictable changes. Once it's inside, I'll collapse the maze around it." Shira's eyes narrowed slightly. "A dangerous idea. If you misjudge the timing, you could be trapped with it." John gave a small shrug. "If I hesitate, Leora's gone. I'd rather take the risk than watch her fade." There was a moment of silence. Then Shira spoke again, her voice calm but firm. "If this is the path, you will have all the resources you need. But understand, human, the lives of my daughter and yourself now hang on the same thread." Saren adjusted the floating model. "To create this trap, we must give you full control over the medical systems. The machines will respond instantly to your mental commands. No luminary has ever been granted such access." John smirked faintly. "Guess I'll try not to break anything important." Over the next hours, they worked together. Saren showed John how to guide the energy fields, without touching the controls physically. The machines could take signals directly from his thoughts once the link was active. Shira watched without speaking, her sharp eyes following every detail. When everything was ready, Saren stepped back. "The trap is set. Once you are inside, you must keep the parasite focused on you. If it shifts away from your path, it will escape." John nodded. "I understand." Before they began, Shira placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "Your courage has brought us this far. If you succeed, my people will remember your name for generations. If you fall—" She paused, then simply said, "Do not fall." "I'll do my best," John replied. He sat in the curved chair again, feeling the smooth surface against his palms. The silver band was placed around his head, and the hum of the link began to grow. He closed his eyes, letting the real world fade. The maze appeared again. This time it was brighter but also sharper, every color moving with restless energy. The parasite was ready, waiting for him. Almost immediately, a wave of red light surged toward him, twisting into spikes. John turned and ran, not fighting, just moving fast through the corridors. The parasite followed, the walls shifting wildly as it tried to cut him off. "Good," John muttered. "Keep chasing me." He darted left, then right, never slowing. The parasite pressed harder, sending bursts of light ahead to block his path. Each time he dodged just in time, letting it think he was barely escaping. As he ran, John subtly adjusted the maze. The paths began to curve inward, guiding both him and the parasite toward the trap's center. The parasite seemed not to notice. In the medical wing, Saren watched the readings. "It's following him," he said. "Energy movement is concentrated in the center zone." "Hold steady," Shira said quietly. Inside the maze, John reached the heart of the trap, a wide, open space surrounded by flickering walls of unstable light. He slowed his pace, letting the parasite close in. It formed into a massive sphere of shifting colors, pulsing with energy. The moment it moved toward him, John triggered the trap. The walls exploded into chaos. Colors shifted faster than the parasite could track. Shapes collapsed and reformed without warning. The parasite's form flickered as it tried to adapt, but every move it made was met with something new. "You're not getting out," John said through clenched teeth. The parasite lashed out, sending sharp bursts of light directly into his mind. For a moment, the maze dissolved, replaced by visions. The cold darkness of space, the sound of something breaking, the image of Leora fading into nothing. John gritted his teeth. Not real. He focused, sending a surge of unpredictable thoughts into the trap. Storms, laughter, stone walls, falling water, the crack of lightning. The parasite faltered, its form losing shape. "Now," John said, and collapsed the maze inward. The walls closed fast, shrinking the space around the parasite. It twisted violently, trying to break free, but each path it reached dissolved into chaos before it could escape. In the medical wing, the parasite's energy readings spiked, then dropped sharply. "It's destabilizing," Saren said urgently. John pushed harder. The walls came together in a blinding flash, and the parasite's form shattered into fragments of light that faded into nothing. The maze went silent. John stood alone in the empty space. He felt the link pulling him back. His eyes opened. The medical wing came into focus. He was breathing hard, sweat on his face, but he was still alive. Saren checked the readings again, then looked up. "It's gone." Shira moved quickly to her daughter's side. Leora's glow was bright now, her breathing steady and strong. Slowly, her eyes opened. "Mother," she whispered. The queen bent down, her expression soft for the first time since John had met her. "You are safe now." John leaned back in the chair, exhaustion pulling at him, but a smile forming despite it. The plan had worked. She returned to him. "You have done what none of my people could. The debt we owe you is beyond measure." John shook his head. "I just didn't like the idea of losing." John had barely rested since the trap collapsed the parasite. His muscles ached and his mind still felt tense from the mental strain. But the relief of seeing Princess Leora breathing steadily was not complete. The monitors showed that the parasite's energy had vanished, or so it seemed. In the quiet of the medical wing, Saren approached John with concern in his deep blue eyes. "The parasite is gone from the main energy field," he said. but there are small residual readings inside. The princess's mind. Tiny fragments remain, hidden in her life force. John frowned. You mean it could come back? Saren nodded slowly. If it is not fully eliminated, it might attempt one final counterattack. It could try to seize her energy completely if we are not prepared. Shira entered then, her silver robes flowing like liquid. Her eyes were calm, but the tension in her shoulders was evident. John, I trust you can prevent it. My daughter depends on you once more. John took a deep breath. I will go in again. This time I will make sure it cannot return. Saren and Shira worked quickly to prepare the link. The silver band went around John's head, and the machines hummed with energy as the connection stabilized. Princess Leora rested in the bed, her soft glow filling the room with calm light. Be careful, Shira said. This is not the same as before. The parasite may attempt to strike her directly through the link. John nodded. I know the risk, but if I wait, it will grow stronger. I have to act now. He closed his eyes, letting the real world fade. The hum of the link grew until it filled his senses completely. The maze appeared again, but this time it was different. Shadows flickered between the streams of light, small sparks of dark energy weaving through the colors. The parasite's fragments had hidden themselves, and it was trying to lure him in, testing his mind. John moved carefully, stepping into the corridors of shifting light. The shadows darted toward him, forming jagged shapes that seemed almost alive. He could feel the fragments of the parasite trying to sense his thoughts, looking for patterns to exploit. You won't trick me, John said, focusing on the path ahead. Suddenly, the fragments coalesced into a tall, swirling figure of pure, dark energy. It struck at him with sudden, sharp bursts. John dodged, sending chaotic flashes of thought to confuse it. Shapes, colors, sounds, all mixed unpredictably. The figure faltered, its form twisting in confusion. He moved toward the center of the maze, where the fragments were gathering. The white glow of Leora's life force appeared faintly in the distance, surrounded by the parasite's shadows. You're not taking her, John muttered. Not while I'm here. The fragments surged together, forming a swirling vortex around the white glow. It was faster than anything he had faced before. Each pulse of the vortex sent pressure into his mind, threatening to overwhelm him. John clenched his fists. I've faced worse than this, he said aloud. I won't let it win. He began throwing chaos into the maze again. Bursts of lightning, storms, flashes of fire, the sound of rushing water, the laughter of children. The vortex faltered, unable to predict his next move. Now he reached the white glow. The fragments tried to lash out at him directly, striking with spikes of energy, but he dodged and circled around, never giving them a steady target. Almost. There, he whispered. He reached out and touched the white glow. It was warm, strong, and pure. The fragments shrieked in resistance, but he held firm. Using the techniques he had learned from the trap, he created a miniature maze inside his mind, forcing the fragments into spaces where they could not escape. The fragments twisted and surged, trying every possible route, but each time they hit a dead end. John's chaotic patterns and unpredictable thoughts kept them off balance. In the medical wing, Saren's monitors glowed brighter as the parasite's residual energy dropped sharply. Shira watched her daughter closely, holding her breath with every reading. John poured more energy into the maze, sealing each fragment in a pocket of unstable light. Finally, the last fragment tried one desperate strike, forming a spear of darkness aimed directly at Leora's life force. John reacted instantly, throwing all his mental energy into a sudden wave of unpredictable chaos. The fragment shattered, like glass under pressure, dissolving into nothing. The white glow of Princess Leora's energy pulsed strongly now. It was steady, stable, and entirely free from the parasite's influence. John fell to his knees in the maze, exhausted but victorious. The fragments were gone. The maze dissolved, and he felt himself pulled back into the real world. He opened his eyes to the soft glow of the medical wing. The machines hummed gently. Princess Leora's chest rose and fell in even, strong breaths. Her eyes opened fully, shining with a light John had never seen before. Shira moved quickly to her daughter's side, tears welling in her eyes. "Leora," she said softly, "you are safe." The princess smiled weakly, but it was genuine. "Mother, I feel strong again." John leaned back in the chair, his body shaking from fatigue. Saren stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done what no luminary could. The parasite is completely destroyed." John gave a small, tired smile. "It's finally over." Shira turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude and respect. "Human, you have saved my daughter and my people. We owe you more than words can express." John shook his head. "I just did what I had to. She needed someone who could think differently. That's all." For the first time in days, a calm settled over the medical wing. Princess Leora's life force pulsed steadily, the threat of the parasite completely gone. Shira placed her hand on John's shoulder. "You have shown courage, wisdom, and strength. You are welcome among the Luminari any time. Your name will be remembered forever." John smiled faintly. "I'm just glad she's safe." Princess Leora reached out a hand toward him. "Thank you, human. I will never forget you." John nodded, feeling the weight of the events finally lift. The parasite had been clever, relentless, and dangerous. But humans had something unique: the ability to think outside patterns, to adapt faster than anything predictable. That had made all the difference. For the first time since the beginning of this ordeal, John allowed himself to relax. The battle was over. The princess was safe, and he had proven that even a human, far from home, could change the fate of an entire alien civilization. The sun rose over the city of Luminara, spilling soft golden light across the crystal towers and streets below. For the first time in many days, the air felt calm and safe. The parasite that had threatened Princess Leora and her people was gone. Peace had returned, and with it, hope. John walked through the royal gardens beside Shira and Saren. The gardens were unlike anything on Earth. Trees of silver leaves shimmered in the light, and flowers glowed faintly as if filled with their own energy. Leora rested nearby on a soft bench, her face peaceful as she recovered fully from the parasite's attack. "You have given us a gift beyond words," Shira said, her voice gentle but firm. "Not only have you saved my daughter, but you have shown us a way to confront the unknown. Humans think differently, act differently. That is something we must remember." John shrugged. "I just did what I could. I didn't know if it would work, but I knew standing still would not help." Saren smiled, a rare expression for the healer. "Your thinking was unusual, but it succeeded. Perhaps that is the lesson. Even in a world far older than your own, fresh minds bring new possibilities." Leora stirred and opened her eyes. Her silver glow was steady, brighter than ever before. "John," she said softly, "I feel alive, strong. You gave me that." John smiled faintly. "I'm glad you're okay. That's all that matters." She reached out and touched his hand lightly. "Not just okay, better than okay. You saved me. You saved everyone." Shira studied him closely. "Human, your courage has changed our world. You faced a danger no luminary could defeat, and you did it with nothing but your mind and determination. We owe you more than we can say." John shook his head. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because it needed to be done. If I hesitated, she would have been lost." The Queen smiled, a rare warmth in her silver eyes. "Even so, your actions will be remembered. Songs and stories will speak of this day for generations. You are part of our history now." Leora stood, moving toward John with steady steps. "I want to learn from you," she said. "Your way of thinking, your courage. I want to carry it forward in our world." John blinked. You want to study humans?" She nodded. "Yes. Humans see possibilities we cannot always imagine. Your actions show that our world can grow stronger if we learn to think like you, without fear, without limits." Saren chuckled softly. "She is right. Your approach has opened new doors in our understanding. Perhaps the Luminari can combine our knowledge with yours in ways we never thought possible." John looked around the gardens. For the first time, he noticed how peaceful everything felt. The soft wind brushing the silver leaves, the faint hum of energy in the air, the warm sunlight reflecting off crystal towers. It was beautiful, but even more, it felt alive, full of possibility. Shira approached him again. "There is something else, human. We have seen how humans act when facing danger. How you adapt, how you take risks, and how you think freely. We have a vision now for a new path for our people, a way to face challenges without fear of the unknown. You are part of that vision." John smiled faintly. "I never thought humans could make that much of a difference on another world. But I guess we can." Leora reached out and touched his arm. "You've shown us hope. You've shown us that even in the darkest moments, there is a way forward. That is a gift we will never forget." John looked at her glowing silver eyes and felt a strange warmth in his chest. This was not just gratitude. It was trust. It was a bond that crossed species, worlds, and understanding. Shira's voice broke the quiet. "Human, you have our thanks and our offer. You may stay with us as long as you wish. You have a place here, among the Luminari if you choose." John shook his head slowly. "I must return home eventually. My world, it will need me. But I will not forget this place. I will not forget what we did here." Leora smiled. "Then promise me something. Promise that you will remember us and the lessons we shared. That your courage will continue to shine, even on your world." "I promise," John said firmly. The next few days were filled with celebration and quiet reflection. The parasite was gone, and Luminara was safe. But more than that, the people had seen what humans could do. The courage to act, the ability to think differently, and the strength to face the unknown. John spent time with Leora, teaching her about human ways of problem-solving and creativity. He showed her simple tools, mechanical systems, and logical approaches that humans used. She absorbed it quickly, asking questions and offering her own insights. Shira and Saren observed, clearly impressed. "She learns faster than I imagined," Saren said. "Perhaps humans and Luminari together can achieve more than we ever thought possible." Shira nodded. "And it is because one human dared to act. One human reminded us that even the smallest differences in thought can overcome the greatest threats." John smiled faintly. "I'm just glad I could help." As the sun set over Luminara, John stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The crystal towers reflected the orange light of the sky, and faint streams of energy danced in the streets below. He felt a sense of pride, not just in what he had done, but in the potential he had seen in this world. Even far from Earth, humans could make a difference. Even among beings older and wiser than himself, one human mind could change the course of history. And for the first time in weeks, John allowed himself to rest, knowing that Princess Leora would live, the parasite was gone, and the bond between their worlds had begun. Shira's words echoed in his mind. Your courage has changed our world. Yes, it had. And John knew that humans could do more, wherever they went. He smiled, looking out at the glowing city. A new dawn had begun, for Luminara, for Princess Leora, and for the promise of human potential shining across the stars. And John had a place in that story, forever remembered among the Luminari as the human who saved a princess, defeated a threat no one else could, and proved that courage and clever thinking could overcome even the most impossible odds.